January 2019. A $2.3 million Bugatti Chiron engine. Completely dead. 3 of the world's top engineers flew in from Germany. They spent 8 days. They spent $500,000. And they failed. The CEO looked at the mechanic, standing in the corner, a quiet man in worn-out overalls, and laughed. "You really think you can fix what my experts couldn't?" The man didn't answer. He just picked up his toolbox and asked for 6 hours alone with the engine. What happened next? Not a single engineer in that room could explain. His name was Marcus Webb, 47 years old, single father. His daughter Emma was 9. Every morning, Marcus packed her lunch, dropped her at school, then drove his 2003 Ford pickup to a small garage on the edge of town, a garage that barely paid the rent. He wasn't famous. He had no degree, no certification on the wall, just 28 years of grease under his fingernails and a mind that understood engines the way most people understand, breathing naturally, without thinking. 3 months earlier, a man in a suit had walked into his garage, a Lamborghini with a shaking idle. 5 dealerships had turned it away. Marcus fixed it in 40 minutes. The man in the suit didn't say thank you. He took a photo of Marcus's hands, cracked, stained, calloused, and sent it to his CEO with one message: "Found your last option." The call came on a Tuesday. A private number. "Mr. Webb, this is Richard Harlow, CEO of Harlow Motorsport. I have a problem only you might solve. Or might not." That last part, or might not, Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. He drove 4 hours to a facility he'd only seen in magazines. Clean floors, glass walls, engines worth more than his entire neighborhood. 8 German engineers stood around the Bugatti Chiron W16 engine like doctors around a patient they'd already given up on. Richard Harlow didn't shake Marcus's hand. He looked at his truck in the parking lot, then at his overalls, then at his toolbox, old, dented, held together with a bungee cord. And he smiled the smile of a man who has already decided the answer is no. "My team has been here 8 days, he said. $500,000. The best engineering minds in Europe. And you think a small-town mechanic is going to walk in here and just fix it?" One of the engineers laughed quietly. Marcus looked at the engine. Not at Harlow. Not at the engineers. Just the engine. "Can I have 6 hours?" he said. "Alone."
They cleared the room. Harlow watched through the glass wall, arms crossed, already composing the email he'd sent to his board. "We tried everything. Even brought in a local mechanic. Nothing worked." Marcus didn't start with the engine. He started with the records. Every report. Every diagnostic. Every part the engineers had replaced. 28 minutes of reading. Then he stood up, walked to the far side of the engine, and removed a panel no one had touched. Not because the report said to. Because something sounded wrong when the engineers had run the cold start, a vibration, barely there, like a whisper inside a shout. Nobody else had heard it. Marcus had heard it the moment he walked in. Inside that panel, a $4 fuel pressure sensor. Cracked. Hairline fracture. Invisible on every diagnostic scan. Causing a cascade failure through the entire injection system. $500,000 of repairs. 8 days of expert analysis. Because of a $4 part that no computer could find, but a man with 28 years of listening heard in 28 minutes. He replaced the sensor. Then spent the next 5 hours reversing every fix the engineers had made, each one well-intentioned, each one making things worse. At hour 5 and 47 minutes, Marcus Webb pressed the ignition. The Bugatti W16 engine, $2.3 million of engineering, fired to life. Smooth. Perfect. Quiet as a whisper. The room went completely silent. Harlow walked in slowly. He stood next to Marcus and listened to that engine for a long time without saying a word. Then, what was it? Marcus held up the sensor. Smaller than a lighter. "A $4 part," he said. "And everything your engineers did after was fighting the wrong problem." Harlow looked at his team. Not one of them spoke. He turned back to Marcus. "Name your price," he said. Marcus thought for a moment. My daughter needs braces, he said. And my truck needs a new transmission. He paused. And an apology would be nice. Harlow, this man who ran a $400 million company, who had never apologized in a boardroom in his life, extended his hand. I'm sorry, Mr. Webb, he said. I was wrong about you. That evening, Marcus picked Emma up from school. She asked him how his day was. He said, pretty good, actually. She asked if he fixed the engine. He said, yeah. It just needed someone to listen to it properly. She looked at his hands, the same cracked, stained hands that had embarrassed him in that glass facility that morning. And she said, I want hands like yours when I grow up, Dad. Marcus Webb never worked from a corporate garage. He never got a degree. He never stopped driving that 2003 Ford pickup. But every engineer who was in that room on that January day in 2019 knew one thing they hadn't known before: the most expensive tool isn't always the most powerful one. Sometimes, it's just 28 years of listening.
去明終於第一次感受到，原來人一味付出，未必換得到感恩。有時候換返嚟嘅反而係貪婪。就喺會明萬念俱灰嘅時候，命運安排咗一個人出現。深秋時分，一位遊人禪師嚟到揚州城外嘅股市掛單，法號覺音。傳聞呢位禪師多年行遍天下，專門點化迷失之人。會明聽到之後，內心突然生出一絲希望。佢心諗：我起咗半世寺廟，捐咗半世香火，但係我從來冇真正明白何謂修行。